Well, hello again, everybody. Sorry we got cut off there. I suppose this will be part two. We were cut off because I got a tornado warning on my phone, so I stopped the video. So yeah, I guess we'll just keep an eye out. We got the window right behind me. I guess if we see a tornado showing up, we'll head downstairs if we got time. Otherwise, I guess I'm going to Oz, I guess, huh? But anyways, so we left off talking about the supposed death of Paul McCartney in 1966. So as I was saying, with discussing the matter with the agent Maxwell of MI5, they decided that it would be best for the country that the Beatles keep going, making lots of money for the country, and doing what they're doing, and not to mention, it could be dangerous, honestly. There was a lot of people that were obsessed with the Beatles. They didn't want people committing suicide or going mad. So what they would do was hold a fake Paul McCartney lookalike contest, where the winner was not just winning some little contest. He was actually going to become Paul McCartney through plastic surgery, and luckily already looking a bit like him, right, through the contest. So a winner was chosen, but never announced. And the winner was secretly told that you are actually going to be becoming Paul McCartney. And he agreed to it. He had to undergo a lot of plastic surgery. And his name was William Campbell, apparently. They also refer to him as Billy Shears. Billy Shears apparently is a play on word. When they say Billy Shears, they're saying Billy's here. So there's a clue for you. William Campbell, right? Billy's here. William. So they now they have their new Paul McCartney, but they felt really guilty that they were going to keep going on as the Beatles. So what the Beatles wanted to do behind Maxwell's back, actually that's a big part that I should have mentioned, actually. Because this was such a high risk situation, if the remaining Beatles were to ever come out public and tell anybody what they had done, then the penalty was death, apparently. And we'll get into that later on too. Supposedly that's what happened to John Lennon, and that's supposedly why there was an attempted murder on George Harrison. Apparently, John Lennon was going to come out and tell everybody what had really happened. I mean, that's that's going pretty far too. Again, this is all just, this is a pretty big conspiracy, but again, I love rock and roll mysteries. Anyways, though, so some of the interesting clues now, because the Beatles felt bad, they were deceiving their fans, so they wanted to start placing clues on their album covers. Eventually they figured out backwards masking, where they would actually put backwards messages in their songs, which there are a lot of those. I mean, you can find them everywhere. Now, I watched an interesting small mockumentary. It's called The Last Testament of George Harrison, where a man claiming to be George Harrison tells the whole story. Now, he sounds nothing like George Harrison, really, so again, it's all not for fun, but it's interesting. Now, some of his clues go back before 1966 is the funny thing. For example, apparently Rubber Soul, the reason it was called Rubber Soul was the rubber soul that was now the fake Paul McCartney, right? It was a fake soul, a rubber soul. And if you look at the album cover, it looks like the Beatles are looking down at a grave. So it looks like if you look at the album cover, it looks like you're looking up from a grave, supposedly. There was another one, I can't remember, Revolver, to emulate the revolving door in which the old Paul had left and the new Paul had come in. The interesting one that I like, I didn't look up the date of this album, so I'm not sure when this album was released. So if, I'm not sure if it does coincide, but the famous Yesterday and Today album, I believe it's called, where they were originally in kind of doctor's outfits and they were covered in chunks of meat and baby doll parts. They ended up having to change it to them just sitting on a trunk. Well, if you look at that, they're not just sitting on a trunk. Paul is the only one sitting in the trunk. So if you turn the album on its side, looks like Paul's in a casket. It's interesting. And it really does look that way, actually. It looks like he's kind of placed in a casket. It's interesting. So that's why they were going to do the chunks of meat too. And if you look at that cover, I believe the one where they still have the baby guts and everything all over them. Paul is the only one. He's smiling, kind of like that, so he doesn't have teeth, because when the explosion happened, he apparently lost his teeth. There is a baby head, I believe, with burnt off hair. It's a pretty weird album cover if you look at it. Now the big album cover, of course, I'm not going in order. The internet's out and everything, so I don't know the exact order of these right now. But Sgt. Pepper's is one of the big ones. If you look at it, it clearly looks like a funeral procession. I mean, there's flowers. You can see the wax sculptures of the Beatles, and they look very sad, and they're staring at the grave where in flowers, if you look carefully, it does look like it says Paul. If you hold a mirror up to the bass drum on the Sgt. Pepper's album cover, and I've done all this, it's true. If you hold a mirror up to the center of it, it says He Die, something like that. It says He Die 1, something like that, and it has the date in Roman numerals. Everybody, there's all these celebrities on the Sgt. Pepper's cover. Well, apparently every one of those celebrities had either died or had a near-death experience. Yeah, the flowers, if you look at, spell out Paul. There's the flowers are in the shape of a left-handed bass guitar. There's a lot on that one. If you look at the back of it, Paul McCartney is the only one facing away. And George Harrison, if you look, his finger is actually pointing to the lyrics, Wednesday morning at 5 o'clock, from the song She's Leaving Home. So that's weird. Now there's a lot of clues in their song, supposedly, too. I can't remember if it's I thought it was the end of Strawberry Fields, but I recently saw in a comment, somebody said it was at the end of I Am the Walrus, where there's the fade out and you can hear John Lennon, you can hear him say something. And everybody always says, it sounds like he's saying, I buried Paul. Well, he said in an interview, because eventually this did come out, and the Beatles obviously denied it. He said he's saying cranberry sauce. I don't know. It sounds like it could be either. The song Revolution Number 9, played backwards, is just insane. He says, it repeats, turn me on, dead man, turn me on, dead man. You can hear a car crash, an explosion. You can hear Paul screaming, help, get me out, get me out. I just realized I'm almost at the 10-minute mark here. Jeepers. I'm not even sure how interesting this is for anybody else. Like I said, there are literally, I'm pretty sure there are hundreds of clues. In the song Glass Onion, John even says, here's another clue for you all. The walrus was Paul. Supposedly the night that everything happened, Maxwell said he looks like a walrus because, he was mangled and decapitated, unfortunately. I wish the internet was going so I could look up all the proper clues, especially in order and everything. Now, one last strange thing, I'll probably make another video, But one last strange thing, you might think, well, people knew about the clues, so of course they kept going with the clues. I mean, maybe people knew about them, but it wasn't made public about the clues until, I believe, 1969 or 1970. So, again, they deny that they ever did any of this, but there's just too much to... That's why I say I don't necessarily believe Paul McCartney died. But there's too many clues and strange anomalies on their albums to just be a coincidence. They were obviously trying to either mess with people or something. Oh, here's one good one I'll leave you with. The Magical Mystery Tour album, I believe it is. If you flip it upside down, I believe it's in the stars, you can find a phone number in there. There's actually a phone number, like connect the dots with the stars. And apparently back in the day, if you found that clue and you rang up that number, you got a funeral home. Some pretty strange stuff. I mean, again, you can look all this stuff up. It's very interesting. If you like this sort of thing, I highly recommend you look this up. It's one of my favorite rock and roll mysteries because you can look at it for hours. You can really just keep on going with it. Well, I hope everybody has a great night and stay safe out there. Good night, everybody.